Welcome back and thanks so much for staying with us. Now in today's career guidance focus, we look at the information and communications technology industry, or the ICT sector, which has constantly evolved and creates boundless opportunities for employment. The ICT career has globally been challenged by skills shortage, with school curricula under increased pressure, faced with continuous declining matriculation pass rates, specifically in subjects such as science and mathematics. We've invited Professor Greyling, who is head of department and co-supervisor of the studies, and Professor Calitz, who completed his DBA studies on the ICT skills shortage in South Africa. They both often interact with learners and their parents and will share some findings through practical experience and shortcomings in the industry. And you at home are most welcome to give us a call if you're curious about the subject matter. Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Professor Calitz and Professor Greyling. We were just saying, what is a DBA? We have so many acronyms in this country, and half the time we walk away thinking, what in the world is that?
Usually people complete an MBA at the Masters of Business Administration, and the DBA is a Doctorate of Business Administration, which follows up on an MBA. And there are 4 universities or 4 business schools in South Africa that offer DBAs, and I completed my DBA at the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University.
Okay, and you needed Professor Greyling here to guide you through your studies as you were going through your thesis. How does the process work? Is it a teacher-student kind of relationship, or would you say, look, focus more on these particular areas because they're critical?
Well, obviously we're colleagues, so it was a unique situation, but we're both interested in this topic of the ICT skills shortage. So we were actually working as a team. Andre as a student, me as the supervisor. So typically, and then he had a supervisor in the business school as well. So the 3 of us would work as a team over a period of 2 years, investigating, deciding which questions to ask, which answers to look for. And that's the process went that way.
What compelled you to undergo or read for this thesis?
What I saw, Cindy, was that a whole lot of our students were going into industry, and there were a lot of career opportunities available. And they came to me and asked me which careers should I follow and pursue once I've completed my studies. So what I did was I did a fairly big investigation into the ICT skill shortage in South Africa, and I looked at what happens and what are the skill requirements from industry for graduates. I looked at what are the problems which are faced within the university system and what are the skills we are teaching our students. And then a big component was, why do a lot of school kids not pursue careers in ICT?
And that's where my interests come in. I often talk to school kids, matrics, grade 11s, with their parents. And I want to say 80% of the interviews goes as follows. The child wants to do the career. The parent is skeptical. He would ask me, Professor, but will my child get a job one day if he studies a BSc degree in computer science or a BCom in information systems? And that kind of, so on the one hand, Andre is saying to me, but there's all these jobs outside. On the other hand, the parents are saying to me, will my kid get a job? And we just said we need to bring these 2 realities closer to each other.
All right, so the findings now will result in some form of a suggestion or some reform, if you will, to the curriculum, where we do find a balance between the job opportunities out there and the children taking up these careers.
Cindy, that's right. What I found was that a lot of parents don't know about the amount of careers out there, and in some literature it shows that there are more than 290 careers in ICT worldwide today. Specifically, if you look at the social networking side coming into businesses, and that there are also career opportunities around that which are now being created in business.
Yeah, but it seems South Africa is always, or Africa in general, I guess, always have to play catch up with the rest of the world. We know that the Asian markets, India, and if you take the US and the UK as well, they're light years ahead in terms of how they generate and develop their technological ability. I mean, at which point can we now become developers of software programs to match the likes of your Microsofts and other programs?
In a very friendly way, I want to disagree with you. Some of our
be as friendly as you like.
Some of our ex-students are working at companies producing excellent software for countries all over the world. There's a company in Cape Town that produces software for ATM banks, and that software is used in America, UK, Australia, all over, Persian Gulf. There's a group of our students that work in Chicago, developing excellent software for big factories in America. That same group, interesting, just for fun, last year sat around a coffee table and said, let's develop a virtual vuvuzela just before the World Cup.
Is it as noisy?
As noisy on your cell phone. Over 1 million copies of this thing was downloaded during the World Cup, all over the world. And I can carry on like this. There's students working all over the country, all over the world, from South Africa, making a difference, developing excellent products. That's
fantastic. But I mean, how then do we absorb? Because we often hear, and you're saying that there's a skills shortage, but then depending on your source of information, we often hear that there's a pool of graduates that are sitting there and they're despondent, they don't even want to look for work anymore out of sheer frustration. And you, how then do we absorb those?
Cindy, I specifically went to industry and also looked at what kind of qualifications do they want. And one must be very careful because a lot of people do a short course and then they say, I'm an IT specialist. And that is is something which we must watch out for. That when you pursue a career in ICT, that people that go out make sure that they follow a good qualification and pursue an ICT career for which there is a need in industry. And that is something I encourage school kids and students to look at.
Yeah, but I think what Professor Calitz is saying is that this is also endemic in other sectors where people are so desperate to want to get into the marketplace that they will do that crash course, an introductory course, and assume that that is adequate qualification. It's not the case.
The reality of this discipline, it's cutting edge, number one. Secondly, it's forever changing. So to go and do a short course where you learned a specific skill might not be relevant in 2 years' time. That's why we continuously say do a 3-year degree or diploma where you have the theoretical base. So you can be on the cutting edge, but you're ready to adapt as the technology adapts. That's very critical.
Let's take a caller. Raj in Cape Town, thanks so much for calling in this morning. What's your question?
Hi, Cindy, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. What's your question?
My question is posed to the two gentlemen, very well, and thank you for doing this type of analysis and investigation. Look, years back I was given the opportunity of doing a formal apprenticeship in a technical company. And at the moment, I don't see that continuing or ongoing. If apprenticeships are government funded, why don't we continue with this? And, I would like to see every technical company in South Africa employ at least one person from out there as an apprentice and training and developing with technical skills that we need in this company. That's my question there.
All right, thanks so much, Raj.
Very interesting. We had a chat last Friday with a company, and the CETAs in South Africa are doing a great job. There are internship funds available. And we're investigating now, our next research project is how can we involve students in these internships? How can we effectively make use of the CETA funding? Many of our students go for 4 weeks internships during holidays over December or July. So if the person is referring to an apprenticeship in terms of an internships, the CETAs have funding, and I think many companies are aware of this.
Yeah. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, our experiences are, we found that students need that exposure to deal with industry. They sit at university and they're not always sure what are the requirements which industry wants and what job opportunities are out there for me. And just coming back to your previous question about what happens to our students, we found that in our study that about 20% of our students which complete our qualifications work overseas or with international companies, producing some of the best software in the world.
Yeah, we'll talk about skills retention in the country when we come back. Just from the quick ad break, we'll also take news headlines with Mark Chase and continue our discussion around the ICT sector, the job prospects there, and what career path you can choose as a young person. 290 or so careers available to you. We're speaking to Professor Greyling, who is the head of department and co-supervisor of the studies, and Professor Calitz, who completed his DBA studies in the ICT skills shortage in the country. The lines are open, but we'll be back just after this.